It's Christmas time here on Who's Views, and what better way to celebrate the festive season than with a Christmas special? It's time to review Canine and Company.
Well, hello, and Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to Who's Views and the start of our Christmas shows. As you can see, I'm here with Paul, and we're here with Third Doctor Ian, and we've got Michael here. Nice to see you all. How are you all? You okay?
Yeah, good.
Not bad. Merry Christmas, everyone.
And here we are. And what better way, everybody, than to start a series of Christmas specials than by talking about the first Doctor Who Christmas special and the first Doctor Who spin-off. Yes, indeed. First broadcast on BBC One on the 28th of December, 1981. We are looking, of course, at Canine and Company. I'm so excited. I love Canine and Company. Now, guys, this came back in the day in 1981 at a very special time, didn't it?
It certainly did. And it kind of helped us through I hate to use a topical word, the transition between one Doctor and another, and it helped bridge the gap waiting for Peter Davison to arrive. It was fantastic.
I mean, for those of you that weren't there, you whiskerless you, this, of course, as I say, 28th of December, 1981. So for all of us oldies here, what had happened in 1981, of course, is Tom had gone in Logopolis. We had just come off the back of the 5 Faces of Doctor Who season. Canine and Company hits in December, and then the week after Canine was Castrovalva. So it was actually a fabulous and very positive time to be a Doctor Who fan.
It was almost like an anniversary, wasn't it, really?
Almost,
Let's say hello to everybody that's in the channel. We've got Pete here. Peter's here saying, good evening, God bless us one and all. Fabulous. We've got Sam here. Hello, Sam. How are you? Sam is saying he's in Tesco's, but we'll be watching shortly. Right. Does anybody need anything?
Yes, a Coke.
Give me some milk, would you think?
As well.
He's also saying that sorry, and he says he loves Canine and Company, by the way. Timescales is here. Hello to you. Greets from San Francisco. Oh yeah, I always think of the Street in San Francisco theme tune when I see you, mate. Pete's saying Canine hooray, and also Timescales is saying here, I remember getting Canine and Company on a VHS tape in the USA. It had no idea it was so historical. It really is. It really, really is. So guys, what's your feeling about this? Who wants to kick us off with this lovely review of this fabulous first Christmas special and first Doctor Who spin-off?
I'll let the Brits go first.
Like it, can you? Sorry, Michael.
No, after you.
I was just saying you can't not like it, can you? It's just good old-fashioned. They don't overdo it on the Doctor references. It's Sarah Jane, and then out comes K9, and Brendan leave him in a corner, and it's just really, really, really good fun. It's good, harmless family fun.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Ian on that. I think it is great family fun. And one thing I like about it, it's played really straight. For such a camp idea of a robot dog and some witchcraft, which is an unusual choice for family entertainment, but it is really good. The performances are great. And one of my favourite characters, spoilers coming up, is Bill Fraser. And what happens to him in the end, I was really shocked by that first time round. Should have seen it coming, but I didn't. He was like a great character to bring back if they did a second, like a first series or a second episode.
He just wanted to come back to kick K9 again.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference, Michael. Yeah. Compare that to Meglos. He's on a different level of campery and straightness in terms of acting. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that comes across with this whole episode, doesn't it? Because even today, when you watch it, and I watched it for the first time from the season 18 box set on the Blu-ray, and I was actually quite disappointed to see they hadn't cleaned it up. It seemed to be just the DVD version that's gone straight over onto the Blu-ray. So I was a bit disappointed about that because I was hoping that I could see it properly, with all that grainy stuff. But it still has this. It's still a BBC quality drama production. I mean, everything about it. The sets are stunning. The filming is really great. The acting is solid. The direction is okay. It's all there. And it just comes across as good old-fashioned BBC. You wouldn't get anything like that today. It just looks. I don't know. It just looks totally different.
I think the word the kids use these days, it's wholesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it feels like an episode of Juliet Bravo as well, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe.
It reminded me of the Famous Five in parts. I don't know why.
Well, that's what I thought, because Brendan reminds me of Gary Russell from the Famous Five.
Yeah, it's got a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to love the Famous. I loved the Famous Five. I used to watch it a lot at that time. We were getting a lot. I know that was a little bit earlier, but we were getting a lot of that here at the time.
There was a lot of night filming, though, wasn't there? Which was expensive, especially for the BBC. But it got quite a hefty chunk of it. So, they obviously put something into it. And, of course, JNT was just sort of like approaching the height of his powers, wasn't he? Just everything he seemed to touch at that point, because we were just approaching the 20th anniversary, weren't we? And he'd be ticking away with plans and ideas for that, because they were just over a year or so away, weren't they? Yeah. So he'd have been plotting things like Longleat, and he'd have been feeling really good about the time that Sarah Jane went out.
He was so ahead of his time, John. I've said this on many, many occasions, but he was so ahead of his time. He had this character, the metal dog, beloved by children and families across the United Kingdom. Remember the uproar when it was announced K9 was leaving? And John had to come out and say, well, he's a companion, and all the companions leave eventually. And we weren't having any of it, by God, But there was this totally. But he was, because he looked at this. And of course, he wanted Liz Sladen back in the show at some point as well. That was all there for him as well. So to think of there's a spin-off in this, that was quite amazing, wasn't it?
And tonally, sorry.
So, okay, carry on, Michael. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, tonally, it's a series in its own right. It's not.
Yes.
There's hints of Doctor Who there, but it's very different. It's a very different tone and very different narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny you're talking about bringing Liz back. There was talk at the time, wasn't there, of getting old companions back to help Tom and Peter. Remember, they were talking about Sarah and or Leela coming back at one point. So maybe that was why Liz Sladen was involved in this particular project, because of that. It was, yeah. So,
I mean, you're right. The story is there, of course, that God love her, the wonderful Liz Sladen. I mean, this was a momentous thing. It's very difficult to understand this now, but Tom had done 7 years in the role. So for John Nathan Turner to suddenly realize, I've got to do a whole new series with a whole new Doctor here, this was a monumental shift on television at the time, and especially with the fandom at the time. And he approached Liz first to say, would you come back as Sarah Jane Smith to aid in that story where Tom leaves and Peter comes back? But Liz, of course, was not interested at all in doing what she had done before. So she turned it down. And then obviously John moved on to other ideas, and eventually we got Tegan, Nissa and Adric in that. But that whole thing was in his head still. So when he proposed to Liz, well, hang on how about a series with K9 where you're more of the Doctor figure? Of course she's going to say yes. She was the lead, again showing Doctor Who ahead of its time, even in 1981, because there was a very strong female lead in the role, let's not forget here. Liz had it down pat.
It's such a surprise, because I didn't think that happened until 2018. It's
wow.
Extraordinary.
But it was stunning and brave.
Yeah.
Well, nobody saw that, though, did we? We were all just so delighted. I remember being excited when I heard this was coming about, because it was Sarah Jane Smith coming back with K9.
Yeah.
That was momentous. Yeah, it was absolutely, because these two had never met in the series before. No. So I was wetting myself over this, guys. I was just so excited about this coming through. But what? How? What? How? What's gonna? What? How? It was amazing, wasn't it?
There's a bizarre pattern of companions getting K9, because Leela got Mark 1 left on Gallifrey, then Romana 2 got one for E-Space, and then Sarah gets one. So Is anyone else due a canine? Or
Well, clearly
or-
JT and Ian got one as well.
Of course, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wasn't
Everyone's
like
getting
I
a
got
canine.
Michael. I got a little one instead. I was
Yeah, I got a little. Well, so I know the feeling.
We've been very
Yeah.
good little boys, haven't we?
Exactly. Yeah.
Naughty, yeah.
Yeah. You need to contact Father Christmas, you two, and see what can happen there.
On the naughty list, obviously. That's what it is.
I've got a little one and a little green one as well, which is slightly a bit of an anomaly.
Well, he's one too. He said he can get medical advice on that. He'll do.
Yeah. Try swap.
Like to say size is not everything, but that would be a lie.
But greenness is a worry, we'll have to say. But yeah.
I mean, it was an amazing story, though, wasn't it? I mean, it was a completely. I don't know about you guys, but at the time when I have a story here, I didn't see it on original broadcast. I did not see it on the original broadcast because at that point I was living in the northwest of England. And of course, the famous story is on that particular night, the 28th of December, 1981, the Winter Hill transmitter went down. Now, what happened in those days is that you had these transmitters dotted around the United Kingdom, these huge, big, you can still see the Winter Hill one. When you pass it on the motorway, it's still there as a relic, rusting. I hate it. But, it's this huge, big thing. And it used to have all these blooming dishes on it. So that signals would bounce from television. It's so primitive now, isn't it? Television signals would bounce around. And that one, because of the weather, was put out of action. And I remember the moment the television went off during the news and screaming for my dad, who then came along. He rushed along, and I'm like, the telly's gone off and K9's coming on. And he thought it was the television, and then did what every good old British fella would do, and he started hitting the top of it and making it look like he knew anything. And it was only when he went to see the neighbours that we suddenly realised the whole of the Northwest was off. So none of us saw it that night at all. I had to wait for months to see K9 and Company. I had to wait for a whole year.
Wow.
And that built up the anticipation even more because I didn't know anybody that had seen it. So on that night, a year later, when I did get to see it, it was not what I was expecting at all. It was just a complete murder, mystery, spooky, ghosty type story. Do you guys remember when you first watched it?
I was trying to look up the transmission dates in Australia. I couldn't find them. I think it was a bit later because I'd already seen Peter Davison. So we must, unless it was a repeat that I caught. So
it was an act of God.
Yeah. So yeah. But I remember watching it and enjoying it and loving the reference to the Doctor. And I loved it because it was sparing. They didn't overdo it.
Yeah.
They didn't get some gratuitous flashback or something like that. It was just a little bit of Peter Howell, ooh, in there. That was enough.
There wasn't a full orchestra playing the entire thing with the Doctor's theme for 10 minutes, was it?
And that beautiful line, Doctor, you didn't forget. Don't forget.
Tying into Planet of the Spiders.
No, sorry, A Hand of Fear.
Oh, yeah, of course, Hand of Fear. Yeah. So I was going to ask you guys as well, did you see the pattern? Because when you watch it now, you know what to expect. But back then, did you notice the fact that it was set up a bit like an Agatha Christie sort of thing? Any one of those people there could have done it.
Yeah.
What is interesting about that is, and hopefully people who are watching this have seen it, that's why they're watching this, but
you would hope.
It's interesting. The Baker family, the couple, the Bakers, are very, very sinister, and they turn out to be the goodies. But whatever they're up to, if it's not witchcraft, it's something very, very sordid, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, there's something going on with those two, isn't it? They might have been very 80s, put it that way.
I was going to say, didn't Alan Partridge meet them in an episode?
They've got the car keys in a bowl or something like that. Yeah.
But isn't the way she plays that? Isn't the way that hello, my dear? I mean, you instantly go, it's her.
It's her.
She's fantastic.
And it's that whole red herring thing where she's been on the phone to Sarah and she turns to her husband and says, she'll come. And you go, no.
And he says, good.
Good.
It's
There's a massive red herring. We are going to be spoiling this, by the way. If you've not seen Canine and Company, we're going to spoil it all for you. Why haven't you seen Canine and Company?
42 years, haven't they?
Yeah, I was going to say.
They've had time.
Spoilers.
And it was repeated the following year as well.
Let's not spoil it.
Why would you not have seen the first ever Doctor Who spin-off? The brilliant thing about Canine and Company as well is you should have seen this, because Canine and Company sets up Sarah for the rest of her time in Doctor Who. It's all here. How she meets K9, where she's residing with K9, how she moves on from K9. She's re-established her career here. She's become a very a well-known and established journalist by this point after leaving the Doctor all this time. And then every time we see her again, even the Sarah Jane Adventures is based on the K9 and Company legacy, isn't it? It's amazing, this story.
It's essentially an extension of K9 and Company, isn't it? It could have been named K9 and Company.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, but you know what I mean. It's certainly got that template.
Yeah. I think though the Sarah's played a bit stronger. She's not got the soppiness of the new series. She's got the really strong character, which she lost a little bit in New Who with her pining over the Doctor, leaving her in Aberdeen and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sick of people pining over the Doctor.
Except at that point, we didn't know it was Aberdeen, which was always just a bit silly. We've got Kirsty here saying, who is the freshly shaven teenage Australian lad at the bottom of the screen?
Bless your heart, Kirsty. I'll just do the funds transfer as we're speaking.
Sam is saying they all did it apart from the ones who were obviously guilty. Yeah, fair enough. And Pete's also saying there was no butler in this one. Yeah, because he would have definitely have done it.
That was kind of that was probably George, the Market Garden person, played by what's his name? What's that guy's name? Colin Jevons. Yeah. He's a bit like the butler, isn't he? To be honest, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Sadiqa 24. I've seen it, but many years ago now. The thing about Colin Jevons's character is, of course, as kids we knew him. We knew Colin Jevons because he was around a lot, wasn't he? But he was always playing the baddie. Did you notice? So he's always playing the weirdo one.
Was he in Jossie's Giants, or did I misremember that?
I don't
remember Jossie's Giants. Anybody?
Something like that, wasn't he? Yeah, I vaguely remember that. But he was always playing the one that you were suspicious of. So when he comes on screen, immediately you're like, oh.
Well, the music every time he comes on, it's sinister music. It's like that kind of. That almost like scarecrow music. Yeah, really weird. Yeah.
And while we're talking about the music, it's very there's hints of season 18 in there. I can almost hear cues from Meglos.
Oh
almost.
yeah,
it's got that sound to it.
Yeah. And it ties into that. That's what I've always said, that K9 and Company is not only its own spin-off show, but it also continues from season 18. But it was just magical to have that first ever. Do you remember the excitement of being told K9 and Company was coming? And it could possibly have gone to series. I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You thought it was a joke at first. You didn't know whether or not to take it seriously because it hadn't happened before. So you just assumed initially that it was just rumor, and gossip and wasn't going to happen, and then it really did. And then of course you're hoping that it is successful enough to go to a series. I mean, God knows what a series would have been like, but
Well, I was thinking about this. When Malcolm Hawke said about the Doctor being exiled to Earth. Would have been the mad scientist, alien invasion type thing, and the occasional episode of more witchcraft.
Yeah.
Well, the K9 Annual managed to pull it off by doing exactly that. They took the template for K9 and Company, and then they had all these other stories, which were more or less the same sort of spin on things. Even Sarah and K9 even go to Loch Ness at one point and solve a mystery at Loch Ness, not the monster, but it's just things. Where
was it Zygons again?
No, it wasn't, unfortunately, probably because they couldn't get the rights. But, I mean, whatever you think about it, as a first episode, it's absolute. I loved it. It's just so. Somebody used the word wholesome, and that's what I got out of this. I have to watch it every Christmas, guys. I have to watch it every Christmas. It's part of my Christmas viewing.
As a pilot, it's a strong episode.
Oh yeah.
For a pilot,
great cast.
Yeah, it is a great cast. Yeah.
And sorry, my audio just went funny there. While we're talking about cast, I was so excited that Max Quadrupleen turned up from the restaurant at the end of the universe because I love him. Yeah.
No, I mean it's all well and good, but I love the fact as well that it is very Doctor Who-y in a different sense. You get that feeling. It is really, really Doctor Who-y, and it's all wonderful and it's exciting and it builds up. You've got the introduction scene, and then you've got this establishing scene, and then you've got the introduction of Sarah, and you just can't wait. You cannot wait until she meets the dog. I'm delighted to say we're being joined now by Jodie. Jodie's joining us now here, gentlemen. Hello.
Hi. Sorry.
Hello.
Look, it's lovely to see you. Nice to see you there. What are your memories of K9 and Company?
Oh God, I just remember being so excited because there had never been spin-offs weren't really a thing in those days, were they?
No.
I don't remember them being a thing. So when it came on, it was like, oh my God, something else that's like Doctor Who related. And I was very excited about it. I was very excited about the fact it was just different. And I was really disappointed when it wasn't picked up.
Oh, John for years would say it wasn't supposed to be a series. It was always supposed to be just a one-off. It was a one-off because he was so disappointed because he wanted 2 series and he couldn't face the fact that, a change of controller at the BBC had scuppered the plans to go to series. Because I reckon he thought, right, we're going to get 6 or 7 40-minute episodes a year out of this, because K9 was big. He was huge. Sarah Jane was big. Oh, bless him.
I also thought it was very sort of Wicker Man-ish when it started off. So that really appealed to me.
Yeah,
it's a dark opening, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
For 5:45 on a Monday afternoon, it certainly is.
And smoking in the first couple of
I
seconds.
know. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Setting the scene completely there, isn't it? That's definitely the 1980s. Absolutely. You would never get that now. Sadeka 24 is saying here, I remember someone telling me it felt like a bit like Stones of Blood. It does, really, doesn't it? When you look at it, yeah, it's got that feel. And he's also saying Zygons in the spin-off would have been great.
Yeah.
K9 zapping them all over the place. Pete's agreeing with that. I would have been cool with a similar atmosphere. Garbage has joined us. Hiya, Garbage. He says he still hasn't seen K9 and Company yet. Are you joking? Is he joking with me? Are you joking with me?
Well, it's on iPlayer, isn't it? And no excuses.
He jokes with me though. He jokes with me, so he might be joking. He might be joking. Tell me, are you joking?
If he hasn't seen it, he's very spoiled now.
And look at that.
I did find really funny last night when I was watching it with Richard, because I hadn't watched it in a few years.
Yeah.
I had forgotten quite a bit about it, and I didn't realise how much they did the whole country folks trope, about the sort of witchcraft and the sort of, dodginess of country people. And I was saying to Richard, oh, this is just ridiculous. And then I was like, actually, I live in the country. We have a concealed cat, and we have a round tree outside our front door. Maybe not.
We don't like strangers here. Like that, yeah.
It's not. Yeah, you can't really. Don't go there, Jodie. No, because it is a little bit. It's true to life at the time, isn't it? Really, these people are like, but it's hilarious. I just think that, and it's wonderful because, as I was saying though, when you were joining us, the scene is set, and then suddenly you've got all these characters around you, and the plot is saying, right, hang on a minute, this is about witchcraft, and I didn't know anything about all that at that sort of point. You'd heard sort of rumors, especially where I live. You'd heard sort of rumors about this sort of thing, but actually, it's quite scary when you look at it, and when you come into this at 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
Even though you're a Doctor Who fan, you are getting that shiver because at this point you suddenly realise, well, the Doctor's not in this.
Yeah. It's a bit like the opening with the kind of the masks of the ram and all that kind of stuff. It's like Dennis Wheatley, The Devil Rides Out, or something like that. It's really incredible. But, and this is for family.
If you're into Hammer, it was very familiar in a sense. Yeah. I was really into Hammer, Justin, at that age. I was into it.
Yeah.
Used to run the Hammer Double Bill on a Saturday night, so I watched all of that. So
yeah, me too.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's more Philip Hinchcliffe than John Nathan Turner, isn't it?
Oh
God,
yeah.
And that's why she's turned out the way she has, everybody. But you're welcome. Do you know what? It was just a thrill, wasn't it? I mean, even the trailer, which you can see on the box set and the DVD and stuff. I remember that trailer. just being thrilled about this. That whole scene where Sarah arrives in that massive, beautiful set. Oh, good old days when you got a proper set and not just a blue screen or a green screen or whatever. You know, proper built set by people in jobs. And it's just stunning. And there she is, and she's setting the scene, and it just, I don't know, there's something about this, just thinking, right, open the box, open the box, open the box. And then they make you wait. She sees the box, she gets the letter, and then she buggers off again. And I'm just thinking, the box, open the box.
The doctor didn't really expertly wrap the box, though, did he? I remember when it opened up, I thought, oh, that's not very safe. That's going to rattle around.
What was wrong with this box, Michael?
Well, I mean, he's just going to rattle around, get damaged, isn't he? You should have put more bubble wrap
The
around.
thing is, did it come from sort of space Amazon? And if it was broken, you have to send it back.
Yeah.
If they deliver it and leave it by the bins.
I'm imagining an Australian postman just throwing it at the door. And just...
You said Space Amazon and not Kablam, because that would have just...
Now you've said it. Yeah.
But you know, you're all mad. You're all mad, because what happened is the doctor materialized the TARDIS in Aunt Lavinia's attic and just pushed the box out into the attic, didn't he? I mean, look, it's TARDIS white on the inside. You're all insane.
Sorry.
Is that a bit of the zero room or something there? Is it?
It absolutely is. You're all mad, you lot. Aren't they insane, Who viewers? Listen, so Garbage is getting back to me. What time was it shown originally?
It was
5:45.
Yeah.
5:45, wasn't it, on the bank holiday Monday?
Near Christmas, wasn't it? It was really near Christmas.
Yes. 28. Yeah, the 28th.
It did really well, GT. They got 8.4 million or something.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, it did really well.
Considering that it was the old ratings, it did. It got 8.4 million in the good old system where the ratings weren't being fudged in any way.
And if that was the iPlayer as well, that'd be 12 million, wouldn't it?
And you have to remember, as I said, the whole of the Northwest region, which includes Manchester, Liverpool, some of Yorkshire, some of the Lake District, Cheshire, was offline. None of that area got that because the whole of the winter transmitter. So this would have got over 10 million had everybody in that area have got it. You know, this was a huge success for the first ever Christmas special, the first ever Doctor Who spin-off, a show without the Doctor. It was massive success.
And not at prime time either.
No.
Yeah.
I know it was a bank holiday-ish kind of day, but it wasn't what you would call prime time. You know, if they put it on at 7 o'clock, what would it have got?
Oh, can you imagine?
You know, like you say, if all the transmitters had worked as well.
Well, actually, the Windhill transmitter, if I remember rightly, didn't come back on till around about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I can't remember. I just remember being very, very angry. I'm crying.
was it canned as a series before transmission or after? Like, had they already made up their mind they're not going to go to a series? Or
I'm sure the new controller had made his mind up that because he just didn't like the premise of a series about a robot dog.
Right,
because
I was going to say those ratings. You would have thought they would have.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the BBC, though. The BBC, that's not important.
Yeah.
No common sense whatsoever.
It is when they want it to be, but yeah, they're selective about their emphasis, aren't they?
Yeah, Peter's saying here he was around at the time and it was a bit spooky. It really was, wasn't it? Absolutely fantastic. And Garbage has answered me. Literally was just the one episode. Maybe I will watch at Christmas. What a great present that will be for me. It'll cheer you up. Honestly, this is proper wholesome BBC drama from the old school, mate. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Fantastic performances. You know, Sarah, you know K9. That's all you need with this. It's just magical. And as I say, I have to watch it every Christmas show.
Quite well known, Justin. Quite a few of them. Even though you couldn't tell them either names, the actors were quite well known. I mean, the guy that plays the nephew, the one that gets caught when shot by K9. He was in Hellraiser, was he not?
Yeah.
Not him. No, not him.
Oh, you mean Thingy? What's it? Yeah.
One that gets tied up.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now. I'll have to look that up for you.
The one that gets pinioned.
That's the one. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you know, it was lovely to actually see him on the behind the sofa. Did you? If you've watched that on the Blu-ray, he's on the behind the sofa, and it's absolutely lovely to see him. You know, just there. And we're looking at what was his name? Sean Chapman. Is that right? Peter Tracy, played by Sean Chapman. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and of course I pointed out Ian Sears there. Now I just want to mention Ian. as Brendan here. Let's put Ian up here. Now, typically, poor old Brendan here gets a lot of fan hate from fans because it's another geeky science fiction juvenile type lad coming into it. I didn't mind him. I honestly, I still don't to this day.
He isn't that bad. He's not as bad as I
Laugh.
remember, but
All right.
he reminds me of a template for the John Pertwee radio series with what's his name, Jeremy.
Oh,
Who was a right pain in the touche as well. So, but yeah, I didn't mind him so much this time round.
yeah.
And his reaction to the name K9 is that it's a little irritating.
Well,
but
that's what I put
other
in
than
my,
that, he's fine.
Stop, Brendan, stop honking. I put in the neck there, like,
Yeah, her reaction is perfect.
laugh. Yes, fantastic. Yeah.
It was bizarre, though, wasn't it? You did wonder what was going on there.
Yeah,
I
okay, mate?
I'd gone into some kind of anaphylactic shock or something.
Yeah.
Some fiberglass. And
What a different episode that would have been, Ian, if that.
that become really dark, wouldn't it?
But you know what?
On us, you know,
It occurs to me as I get older, of course. I didn't mind Brendan at all because I would have been 11 when I saw it, so I didn't mind Brendan because he's still older at that point. You know what we're like when we're kids. But as I'm getting older and I look at the character, I'm thinking this was a twist. It was another twist because this was Sarah as the Doctor, Brendan as the companion, along with K9, and here we are in 1981, where guess who rescues Brendan? It's lovely, actually, at that point, especially. You know, here's a drama from the 1980s saying, well, Sarah Jane rescued him, so no, and she does it beautifully with the help of the old tin dog here, doesn't she?
Yeah. Stick that in your leader, Mr. Tobias.
What are you saying, Ian?
She punched somebody in the stomach and did a kick that Pertwee would have been proud of as well.
I wonder if that's where she learnt it.
I wonder.
For Newsy and Aquino. I'd say, yeah. I mean, it's just let's talk about Liz in this. The wonderful, much misladen as Sarah Jane. She's relishing every moment of this, isn't she, everyone?
Yeah,
it really shows she can hold a show on her own, though. She's brilliant in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, such a talent. She really is.
I actually felt it showed what she was capable of and wasn't always used for in Doctor Who.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just when you watch it now as well. I mean, you're right. I mean, she grabs hold of this. She's competent. She's professional. She's experienced. She knows exactly what this is about. She knows exactly who the character is. She just, it's just beautiful to watch her performance in this. And we were saying, Georgie, before you came in, it was this show that informed everything that followed for Liz as Sarah Jane Smith. This sets up the whole Sarah Jane Smith continuity that would come in years later as well.
Yeah, they give her a really decent backstory as well. It's not just very humdrum. You know, often I don't feel they think out a lot of characters fully, and I felt they fleshed her out properly. So it worked later on as well when they brought in the Sarah Jane Adventures, which my kids loved, by the way. They absolutely, I mean, I loved them too, but my kids loved them and absolutely loved watching them. We still, we have the box set and they watched it several times.
Yeah. That's the brilliant thing about K9. You can watch it over and over and over again, though, isn't it? You know, and you know, it's not one of these things that gets spoilt because you've seen it over and over again. Although it's a whodunit and you know who did it, and the answer to that is basically everyone.
Yeah.
Well, the main villain was Bill Fraser, and I don't know about you guys. When I first saw it, I was completely taken in. Loved his character. Thought it was really warm and
He was
nice.
like your granddad, wasn't he?
Was,
really?
exactly. And then he turned out to be the main baddie, really. You know, which is.
But I tell you something. The one that got Lily. Oof.
Oh, Lily as well. Yeah.
Never trust anybody that works in the post office. That's what I say. But she was nice. Lily was lovely. She offered Sarah a cup of tea. She made a cup of tea and they had biscuits.
And a biscuit as well. She got a biscuit as well. So.
And and I was just thinking, well, it can't be good old Lily. You know, there's no way that can be lovely Lily from the post office. No, and then just it still gets me that.
Yeah, okay. Do you need a minute? Do we need a commercial break?
Oh no, it's just a magical. Anything else that stands out for you guys on this?
When I was watching it, I realised that it happened now, this week. It happened between the 80s.
Why do you think we're doing the show now? Why do you think we're doing the show today? There's method in my madness.
Yeah, it just didn't click because I'm an idiot. But it was just like I was watching it. I think, hang on a minute, that's today. That's today.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, because on December 18th is when Sarah meets K9.
Yeah.
What
didn't
stuck
click me at
out
all.
for me
I'm an idiot.
particularly with this was the interesting title sequence.
Oh.
And
Yeah,
the K9 theme. So that's
Let's
interesting.
take a moment to talk about that title sequence.
Yeah.
Unlike, like, you can look at the the Doctor Who title sequences throughout the year, and they're timeless.
Yes.
This isn't timeless.
No.
This is very much 1981.
Yes.
It's a bit like Life on Mars with Keely Hawkes, isn't it? It's like that series. It's almost like they've watched that.
Yeah, it's a cross between Dallas and Woman at CNA, isn't it? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Woman at CNA. Well, the story behind it, of course, was, I mean, their title sequence, had this gone to series, the title sequence would have changed, and it would have continued to change every now and then, because you know what John was like. But he wanted something that was like heart to heart.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It did, Joe. It did.
Yeah.
He wanted a title sequence that was like heart to heart. So he told the BBC guys this, who probably had to go and look up what that was. And this was their version.
Wow.
It wasn't good. It strikes me that the guy who was the new controller possibly only watched the title sequence and thought, bloody hell.
It was Alan Hart.
Yeah.
It was Alan Hart who took over from Bill Cotton. And it was Alan Hart that said no to the series.
A lot of crash zooming going on.
Levine's fault that it never went to series. Is that what we're saying?
Say that again, Ian?
Are we saying that it's Ian Levine's fault that it never went to series?
No. Yeah. Well, Pete's actually just asking here, who wrote the tune, if you can call it that. It's in there. It's down there for you. Theme music by Ian Levine and Fiatra Trench. I can never been able to say that.
Like
and arranged by Peter Howell.
The theme's quite. It suits K9, especially that K9. But during the titles, all so often, it works quite well. They do sort of comparison shots of both K9 and Sarah. Like you've got her sitting on the wall, and he's on the wall. She's on a glass of wine. What I was disappointed with, there wasn't like a bowl of oil for him to have while she was on a glass of wine. You know, that to do that kind of shot comparison, which was a shame.
The animations were good. The little use of animation in the title sequence was good, which, of course, the K9 series many years later did similarly, I think.
The 2010 series, it did, yeah. I mean that title sequence would have changed. The theme music may have changed as well, but it was all building on the fact that K9 was so popular. It's very hard to tell fans today how big this thing was, because we all fell in love with K9, and it was a big time for robots. Star Wars came in after Doctor Who, by the way, with R2D2 and C3PO. They were there after K9. And then all these other things. We got that stupid thing in that stupid show. What's it called?
Buck Rogers.
Tweaky.
Oh, sorry.
And then Battlestar Galactica had a robot dog as well, didn't they? I think.
It was also
no.
A Daggett.
Yeah. The Daggett, that's right. The Daggett, yeah.
And then there was the hitch. Yeah, Sadeko's pointed to that here. The poor Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had a classic robot in that as well. But this was the age of the robots on television, and they were all, K9 was up there, wasn't he? He was on the Generation Game. He was on Blue Peter. He was everywhere. I mean, this was a big character stroke prop for the BBC, wasn't it?
I was when I rewatched it yesterday, I was taken by how much I enjoyed watching K9 like a kid again. Because I've seen it so many times. I've seen him, K9, so many times. But I was actually really taken in with the prop and the dog. I mean, it's a brilliant design. And K9 himself is looking particularly good in this episode. He's a nice darker shade. Sorry, my phone just went off. Nice darker shade there. And he's got an extra handle to help Sarah pick him up out of the box. He's looking good here.
Yeah, the Doctor's looked after this particular one because, of course, in the story, this is K9 Mark III.
Yeah.
It's the same one.
Painted.
No, there's three of them, Paul.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Sorry, yeah. In case any kids are watching, just in case.
Actually, now there's 4 because, of course, K9 Mark III meets his doom in School Reunion, and there's a story to that which we'll deal with in one day. I'll tell you everything about that one. Ooh. But I have to say as well, K9 Mark III did not go down very well with his creators, Bob Baker and Dave Martin, who weren't a fan of this story at all. Not because of Liz, not because of anything at all, but they didn't agree with the fact that K9 would be stuck on Earth. They weren't consulted at all about this pilot episode leading to possibly a series. They were just not consulted. And as we know, Terence Dudley wrote the script, but they would have preferred a series with K9 Mark I, as we know him, the Gallifrey version, who was sent off on missions, possibly with Leela, possibly without Leela, by Time Lords. Therefore, giving more of a scope. And I think when you look at that, when it came to the series of K9 on Stuck on Earth with Sarah, as we were saying before, what would have been, it would have turned into a villain of the week type thing each episode, wouldn't it, really? It wouldn't have, I know they managed it with Sarah Jane Adventures, but it was a different approach to it all. But it would have been, in the 80s, it would have been quite interesting to see how they would have done that.
Although if Gallifrey was like Arc of Infinity, I'm not quite sure, though.
Yeah, like a Ikea today.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, we got, listen, everybody. Oh, look, Peter's reminding us here. Petra on Blue Peter. Yeah, we spoke about that in the Blue Peter show when Petra met K9. She was not in. Well, it was Shep actually, but they weren't. Shep wasn't impressed, were they? No, but let's have a look at some of this. So yeah, we've got this whodunit thing, and it's basically all about the story here. Flows lovely. I think it really, really flows lovely. So this is the first bit where K9 gets to go outside and makes a right royal mess of things. All the characters are coming about. We've got the police coming along here, and the story really starts to hot up here because, of course, poor old Brendan, oh bless him, he's nabbed, isn't he? He gets kidnapped. Was I the only one that was a bit worried about him? Yeah. Nobody else was worried about Brendan?
No.
Oh. Oh, they're all wicked.
I think the 12-year-old self was probably worried about Brendan.
Yes, that's what I mean. Back when you were a kid, I was worried about Brendan back then. Now I know he gets rescued, but I'm not so worried now.
They gave him a nice mattress, didn't they? It was fine. But,
well, that's all they gave him, because when we next see him, he's that poor fella. Well, let's give a big shout out to Ian Sears, who played Brendan. There he is, because he suffered for his art, didn't he? Really, because they put him into that on a freezing cold night. That's all he was wearing. He was just wearing that. I mean, the poor fella. I want to know if he got the flu after doing that.
That would have been very. When was it shot? What time of year was it shot?
Winter.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. British winters when it was really dark and gloomy and rainy and cold, and they put him in that.
There'd be no north.
Really.
There'd be no North Face puffy jackets on set in those days.
No. You're right, Peter.
You couldn't wear thermal long johns either, could you, with that costume on?
No, no, not at all. Pete's saying the poor soul for him there, absolutely. And Sam is giving us this line has stayed with me forever as well. Guardian Goblin's not in my memory, is that one? A Guardian Goblin. Oh no, I love it. It's a pleasure just to watch this and revisit it all the time, isn't it? For all the reasons we've got there.
I love the line that Tracy has, JT, just to mention that about Kanan when he says, "A dog belching fire." Fantastic.
Do you think this? Do you guys think this is? I mean, I'm always talking about this is the first K9 special, the first Doctor Who spin-off. It's the first Doctor Who Christmas special. Do you think it gets the love that we're obviously showing it this evening?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think
it gets more respect these days than it did.
What would you say to anybody that's coming to it new?
Pour yourself a brandy and enjoy.
Yeah. Watch it in the context that it was meant. You know.
Yeah.
Get yourself in the mindset of the very, very early 1980s. If you're a Doctor Who fan now and you're watching it for the first time, consider what was going on. Like it was, like you've already said, between Tom Baker and Peter Davison starting, which was the week after. But we'd had this almost 9-month gap with nothing, or that led up to the 5 Faces of Doctor Who, which was insane. And then this, and then Peter Davison. But we'd had such a long period with nothing after seeing this Doctor that had been there for like ever had gone. it was quite a time. If you put yourself in that mindset and then watch it with that perspective, I think you'll enjoy it.
And then watch Castrovalva straight afterwards, because it was only like a few days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was a week.
Yep.
It was it was a week before, because they started trailing Castrovalva after K9 and Company, if I remember correctly. Hearing that right, and that was another exciting time, of course, coming off the back of this, because the show was going through that whole chain. K9 and Company really fits into that feeling of change, because here's something else that's added to. I just still can't get over how this series was so ahead of the curve so many years before this became fashionable. It's incredible, isn't it?
It was the first example of an extended universe, wasn't it? Really, on telly.
On telly, yeah.
Didn't have stuff like that. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, and the fact, of course, that as I mentioned, the legacy was intact, because in 1983, of course, Sarah and K9 turn up in the Five Doctors. There she is. She still has him. They're still working together. She's still got the present. And then all the years later, in 2006, there they are again, still doing what they do. Goodness me. What else can you think of in Doctor Who as well that's had that sort of impact?
It's the continuity is there, and for people that say Doctor Who has no canon, there's a continuity there.
It's on point, isn't it? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it obviously inspired all of us, all our generation I'm talking about, because, we couldn't let that relationship disappear. Sarah Jane, K9, that was it. That was the partnership. Pete's asking here, was it released as a double pack on the DVD K9 Tales? Yes, with Invisible Enemy. You're right, Pete. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Which
and
was
on the Blu-ray.
huge seller for them as well, K9 Tales. It did really, really well, I seem to remember. Fantastic, that one there. So again, let's talk about this. When do you guys... Are you guys like me? Do you go back to watch this occasionally at Christmas, or are you like Jodie and it's there, but you don't really pay any attention to it?
I've seen it like maybe 3 or 4 times, but I hadn't revisited it in the last 10 to 15 years, I would say.
Right.
That's because I had children, Justin. There's very little I've revisited in the last 10 to 15 years.
How dare she not show her kids K9 and Company, everybody? It's an outrage, isn't it?
Essential viewing.
It's never too late. Never too late to watch it.
I suspect it might get too late for some kids.
Well, I don't know. We're still watching it, Michael. There you are. So,
it is interesting, though.
Trigger warning these days, isn't it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It is interesting, though, because do you think this would... we get told all these things now about Doctor Who's the way it has to be now, because it has to be this particular way, and this is happening, and this is all this nonsense, really. I still believe that youngsters can see a story and follow a story. I don't think they're that dumb, even though some of the media would make me believe that they are. Do you guys think this could hold up for the generations that are finding all of Doctor Who on the iPlayer? Because there it is on the iPlayer.
I think in the same way that the classics stand up, like the Tom Baker stuff, particularly at that time, things have obviously affects date and people see all that. But I think in the context of when it was made, like Ian had said, you watch in that context, and if people are enjoying the classic Who run on iPlayer or through the Blu-ray, then hopefully they'll find that and enjoy it the same way as the series.
Which they seem to be doing, don't they?
Yeah.
From what we were talking about this previous in a different one, weren't we? That the iPlayer stuff is proving, the classic stuff is proving really, really popular. And, they can hold, it can hold their attention for that. And if, you get youngsters watching stuff like Invisible Enemy, they'll get caught by K9 all over again. Just like an entire new generation were in 2006, they'll get caught by it, and then they'll probably want to watch K9 and Company. And
good story will always trump special effects.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. Especially as this one's a sort of murder mystery, because there's a couple of deaths in this. Let's not beat about the bush here. And the one where the sergeant, his death.
Yeah.
Ooh. That would today be on the knuckle, I reckon, wouldn't it? In our day, it's like, oh, there it is again. There's another death, and none of us batted an eyelid because we were made of tough stuff. But today they'd be like, ooh, it comes out of the blue.
I'm surprised Mary Whitehouse didn't complain about that, because that's right up her street. Did she complain about that? Did she? Okay, right.
She did complain about K9, but not to the extent that she did about Doctor Who.
All right, right.
Yeah, it was all the usual stuff. It's on too early. It's a little bit,
It's got black magic in it, yeah, that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, quite a look on his face when he collapsed, didn't he? It was like, it was really quite a face called.
Yeah. But that's
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Well, the black magic we're talking about, by the way, isn't a box of chocolates. So in case you're wondering, because it is that time of year. But no, it's a case of, the whole thing, it just works, doesn't it? Because in the story, the context of the story, as Jodie was saying, it's set in ye oldie country-ish. I reckon maybe today in Britain today, who knows, it might all be around there at this stage. I don't know. But you've got all that set up. You're in the middle of nowhere with all this sort of stuff. It's just amazing how they got to do all this. The writing, the performances, the direction of all this. It does suggest at Christmas time something spooky, and there's something about Christmas and spookiness, isn't there?
Yeah, that Dickensian.
It was beautiful to see, like you say, the set not only of the aunt's house, but also when she goes to visit the neighbours. It was all very just like the early 80s. The 70s hadn't left yet. There was a lot of browns. There was a lot of, certain sort of decor and dress and mannerisms and things that happened that were very of the era. Where she actually goes to ask, back at her aunt's house, where she goes to ask the guy to sit down and he's already sat down. Things disappeared from our culture, I think.
Yeah,
that was fascinating as well for me. Anyway, rewatching it, because that obviously didn't impact me at all when I watched it, even maybe 20 years ago. But it suddenly struck me, wow, how much has changed, and the way we interact and the way we talk to people, and also the whole, inviting someone round like that for dinner, and you immediately now think they've got an ulterior motive, and it transpires they didn't have an ulterior motive at all. They were just being kind.
Also, we're not sure about that. We think, Jodie, there may be something else that's sinister going on in the background, but we're not sure about that.
Quite possible. But I did really enjoy it for that as well, just to see the houses and the sort of era. They did that so well.
The television sets in the background. I loved seeing those.
And the phone, they use the phone a lot.
Yeah.
They do.
I think Aunt Lavinia's got a VCR as well, I noticed.
Yes, they do. Wow. That's what sets it aside as well. This is its own show. This is Earth, the modern day we know. There's not one science fiction attempt in it, really, is it? And that's why it looks so good, because we all know, because we're all of a certain ilk, the BBC always did that sort of stuff well. They had problems with imagination and science fiction stuff from 150 years in the future. And they would always go to tinfoil, God bless them. But, when it was something that was in the past, bubble wrap, well, bless it. But if it was something in the past or in the present, they got it spot on. And Sarah's world in this, it is wholesome, it's homely. And every time I watch this, Jode, I always look at this and go, But
that's interesting to Jodie's point, which is an interesting point that young people now might watch this and think, people don't speak like that to each other. In those days, they did. They were polite. There was pleasantries.
Time of the day.
Now that you mention it, Jodie, it's interesting to watch, and that is actually people had manners. Dare I say?
No, even if they were plotting to kill you.
Exactly.
Well, but it's quintessentially British all the way through, because that's how things were. And it's quite sad when you watch it now. And Jodie mentioned things like, the look of the houses and the telephones and all that. It's quite sad when you look at it now to think that society has changed that much. And you can actually see the goods and the bads by watching this sort of stuff, can't you? You can see where we've gone very, very wrong as a society in some cases.
There's one thing I noticed, which is not necessarily about society, but I'm a dog lover myself. I love Jasper in this, Bill Fraser's dog. But you don't see much dog ventriloquism anymore, do you? Because that dog growls without showing its teeth. Do you notice that?
I've noticed that all the time.
Every time makes me laugh. Yeah.
We have to mention this as well, just in passing, because of course this is Pepsi, who was this was John Nathan Turner's dog.
Was it?
And Pepsi was famous. Eh?
Was that Pepsi?
This is Pepsi.
Wow, I'd never seen a picture of Pepsi.
Yeah, and
I
Pepsi
always
made
imagined John Nathan Turner. It'd be more of a a handbag dog almost. Much smaller.
What's
You
you
mean a chihuahua or
suggesting?
something?
Or something a little camper. I mean, those teeth.
You had this. What
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I wonder now. What does that say? I mean, I've got 2 dogs and the tiny bloody things. I mean,
Oh, it's funny. Well, Pepsi was well known at the BBC because Pepsi had starred in All Creatures Great and Small, then Canine and Company, a couple of other things I can't remember, but then turned up in Survival in 1989.
Oh, was that Pepsi there too?
So it did well.
I know Pepsi from the seminal reading of the 1980s, A Day with a TV Producer. That's how I know Pepsi. Yeah.
That beautiful book.
I think Pepsi makes a cameo in The Curse of Fenric as well. I don't know if it's intentional.
I can't remember.
In the garden of the lady who gets killed by the evacuees. I've forgotten her name.
That's right. Yeah, just the walk on.
I didn't think the BBC allowed advertising on their programs, inserting little references to Pepsi. Bon bon.
That's why the name was changed.
Other fizzy drinks are available.
Yeah. But it is funny to see that, isn't it? But it's a bit of useless information for you all there as well. So I want to ask you guys, as part of this, if you can remember the first time you saw it, right? Who did you think was behind it all?
Well, I'm quite gullible, and I thought it was the Bakers because they were so overtly sinister. I had no idea it was Bill Fraser. I loved him. Like you said, he was like my granddad. So I thought it was those two definitely.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I know better now, obviously.
Yeah.
But it still gets me when it turns out to be Bill Fraser, though, even though I know it's coming. It's like, oh, a shame. What a waste of a character.
Yeah.
He could be in the first series in the next episode.
Well, I mean, they would have had to move, wouldn't they? Because everybody was in jail for the series.
Yeah.
They would have all had to move anyway, you know.
It'd be like Midsummer.
Like Midsummer. Oh, can you imagine? Oh, John would have loved something like Midsummer, wouldn't he? Oh, my God. Just bring characters in to bump them off. Ian, who did you think did it?
Same. I thought it was the same couple because they were just
Hello,
so
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Joe, did you think did it?
I think from memory, I'm almost certain I thought that couple, but I also thought the guy that came into their house, you know, he was dodgy. And I also remember I didn't like the way he spoke about the dog. So that made me naturally suspicious. He talks about obedience of the dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bill.
And I like the dog with a little, I mean, I like my dog. I've got 2 dogs. They're quite obedient, but they're also monkeys. And I quite like dogs to have a bit of personality and not just be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you heard it here first.
I found the way he
Jody's
talked
dogs identify as monkeys.
thing.
I've
So
got
I didn't
2
like
monkey
that.
dogs as well.
Monkey dog.
Yeah. All right, Michael, who did you think did it?
From memory, I think I probably thought it was those 2, but my memory is very hazy. I think I was just excited to see K9 again. To be honest, at 8 years old or whatever I was, 7. Yeah, 6.
Yeah. Oh.
Didn't it almost feel like though the whole village was involved? I think
Yeah.
everybody was in it. And I actually thought until they talked about human sacrifice, I was like, I think the village would just be like, oh, it's fine. They're just the local Satanists, you know.
Yeah.
We don't mind these groups as long as they don't do anything too bad. You know,
As long as they pay their taxes.
They were very lucky, though. They'd have to sacrifice one of their own if Brendan didn't turn up, you know? So
yeah, but that was the whole premise of the Wicker Man. Get someone in from the outside that we can bump off. So I think I was like Wicker Manning it. I think everybody in the village was like Hecate, you know. Around the... Yeah.
You know, now that you mention it, I can see the parallels to it now. I've never put 2 and 2 together in all these years, but now I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe Terence Dudley went and looked at that first.
You never had Brendan screaming the Lord's Prayer at the top of his voice, singing that.
Now that would have been a controversial ending. Mary Whitehouse would have gone off there, wouldn't she? I mean, it is. It's a very. I think it's a fantastic episode. I think it's a great setup there. The whole mystery, and when it boils down to it as well, let's be facing it here. It comes out of Sarah's absolute determination that something is going on because her aunt has gone off quite innocently, hasn't she? When when you look at it, Lavinia's gone off, and wasn't it lovely to see Lavinia actually after only hearing about her? You know, here she is in the flesh. You know, and she's exactly as I expected her to be. She's a bit of an old I'm going to get you all, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
sort of confident battle axe, as we used to call them. But you know, yeah, well, that's what we used to call them, you know. But
yeah.
Sarah's so determined that something sinister has happened, she actually stumbles along the mystery more or less by accident. And sometimes, you know, I watch K9 and Company going, right, if Sarah hadn't have got involved with this, what would have happened?
They just sacrificed the lad that was in Hellraiser.
Yeah.
That's what I think would have happened.
Oh, yeah. If she'd just gone off to write her book.
Yeah.
it is totally bizarre.
But then he would have met Pinhead, so maybe that would be a good thing.
So there you go, 24. It's just I feel a mood to give in and watch it again. Actually, you've got to. I mean, at this time of year as well, I would highly suggest it. And it is one of the reasons that we've started kicking off our Christmas schedule with reviewing K9 and Company. I'm going to ask the panel shortly for them scores on the TARDIS doors out of 10. So you know, we'll see what's going on there. Peace is saying here, Bill Fraser could play good and bad like in Adrian Mole, a bit of both. A gruff policeman in Hancock Megos comedy. He was a great actor. He wasn't he?
Yeah.
Brilliant voice. That voice was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's true, isn't it? And of course, he was everywhere when we were kids as well, wasn't he? He was one. It's like you were saying. It's like one of those. Everybody in this is familiar, and I think that's also contributes to why it's successful.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's
I was trying to remember where I'd seen him before. He's been in loads of stuff, but I couldn't think what.
There's he's the MC at the Restaurant at the End of the Universe.
Of course he is. That's
Max
the one
Quarterplain. Yeah.
Yeah, and Peter Davison, Dish of the Day.
The great prophet Zarquan. It's that guy. I mean, he's totally different in it, and that would have only been the year before.
Yeah.
So
well, that's true.
He was a great actor. He would have been a very good master, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was so good at playing baddies because I remember him just being the baddie or the sinister one or the one that you suspected in everything I ever saw him in as a kid.
Yeah.
Well, he's got great eyebrows and Underwater Menace as well.
Well, that's true. And he did Sherlock Holmes at one point as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, the Jeremy Brett version. Yeah.
I did spend a lot of my time watching it the other day, thinking, it's that actor. Hang on, what are they in? And I was delighted to see the health inspector from Fawlty Towers.
Yeah.
Henry Tobias John Cornby. I wrote down his name. So I'm thinking, who's that? Oh, Fawlty Towers, and also the guy serving the punch.
In the Time Monster. Yeah.
That's it. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, who is it?
Yeah. You can see why they actually went to reliable actors and good actors as well for this, couldn't they? That could make something out of this script. Because if this was a pilot, and you needed everything to be on point, and from my point of view, in this, everything is on point. It really, really, really is just an absolute joy. It's 1981. We're still talking about it today. Every Christmas I show it. It's an absolute joy, isn't it? And what a welcome addition to the world of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's great. I love that they've put it on the season 18 Blu-ray.
Well, quite right too.
Because they could have easily left that off potentially.
But why would you? I mean, for me, it's always going to be yes, it's its own thing. But because we didn't get that series, it is part of that whole season 18.
It's season 18. Season 18 adjacent.
Yeah, it is. And when you're watching it as a kid, you're always thinking, right, what's happening with the Doctor right now? Because that Tom had gone, and we hadn't seen the new one at this point.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you, fan fiction writers. When did the Fourth Doctor build that version of K9 and send it off? When do you reckon that happened?
Well, it says in the script, the Doctor last spoke in 1978 Earth years.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Well, there we go. That wasn't a showstopper, but it sure slowed things down.
So when he made the version for himself, after he gave Leela one, he made another one as well, knocked it off to Sarah Jane.
I mean, he's so clever, isn't he? He's so clever, that man. I mean, he just winds us all up, doesn't he? He's just thinking at the time, oh, Sarah, I better go and give Sarah a little present as well.
I
Never
left
mind,
to
pick her up.
They do the same thing in the new series. Everyone gets a David Tennant. I think that's what
comment of the day to
except
Paul.
Martha. She never got one.
Poor Martha. She wanted one more than anyone.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is brilliant. It. Whether you wanted one or not, to be quite honest, you get one. Oh, no, that's a really good idea. That yeah. Copyright
In fact,
that quick.
if you get 2 David Tennants, you also get a garlic bread and a Pepsi.
And we mean the drink, not the Coke.
Yeah, not the
The
dog.
dog.
No, the dog actually.
Oh no, this is brilliant. Right, so
K9's giving the Doctor's message to her. What he says, he last spoke in 1978 and everything, and says, "Till I miss her always." You can just imagine Tom Baker saying that.
yes,
You know, the way K9 says it in your head, you can just so easily visualize Tom Baker's Doctor saying it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just-
You can see him in that lovely melancholy mood in Hand of Fear when he says goodbye to her at the end of that. It's very
Yeah,
nice.
you can imagine him pondering and thinking, you know what? I'll send one of these to Sarah.
yeah, because she's always in his thoughts, and that's the
Really
brilliant thing about it, isn't it? That's very much implied. She's always in his thoughts, even though he's moved on at this point. And goodness knows where he is, but he's always a case of like, well, Sarah's there, and he just knows that she's going to be getting into trouble, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So K9 can help her out on certain things. We've got some great comments in the chat as well. Darren is saying here, K9 and Company with its December the 28th transmission also neatly bridged the Monday night gap between the infamous final episode of Blake 7 and episode 1 of Castrovalva. We were going to talk about that because Jodie down there is also a huge Blake 7 fan.
Yeah,
And we loved it, didn't we? But that episode in 1981 of B7, whoa.
Well, it lives on in my memory because I just sobbed my heart out.
She's still seeking somebody for the trauma.
I really struggled to watch that episode even today. I mean, I have made myself watch it once again,
Have you?
but I really struggle to watch it.
Wow.
Really, that one and the other one that really gets to me is the last episode of Michael Praed's Robin of Sherwood. I really struggle with both those. They destroyed part of my childhood.
Oh my!
Crying over a science fiction program, and my grandmother's like, "What?
What's going on?" Why didn't he ever make a new K9 for himself? That well, because John Nathan Turner said no. Basically.
Yeah.
He said, no, we've had enough of the dog in Doctor Who now. Let's give him his own series. I have to say, John was actually gutted that he never got to do that series. You know, he wouldn't. You know, I think he would have made a real go at it. He was ahead of his time, John.
I think it'd have been popular.
Yeah, it would have
Well,
done well.
if it was getting 8 million without part of the country watching, Ian, it would have been huge, wouldn't it? And he would have only done so many a year. You would have got a 45-minute show for, say, 5-6 episodes a year, maybe, I reckon.
I wonder if
was
they
also-
They'd have easily flown that abroad and everything.
Yeah. But they didn't baby kids in those days.
No.
Those were proper shows. You know, they were like, I'm trying to think about Moondial, the Moon Stallion, Children of the Stones, the Tomorrow People. They didn't treat kids like they were stupid.
Yeah, they didn't talk down, did they?
Yeah, what other kids show would have black magic in it? Like I keep saying,
Exactly.
it's like, you know, fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Which made it accessible to the parents as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, we had imagination, didn't we? And our imagination filled in so many blanks. We scared ourselves to death, really,
Yeah,
because of these
absolutely.
things. I mean, today it is. I mean, look where we're going with the version of the series that's out now. They're taking some of the sci-fi elements out because it might frighten people, and they're making it for more fantastical. I mean, K9 and Company mixes the both, really, because this is a fantasy, really, in a sense, isn't it? But you've still got the element of sci-fi there. He's the sci-fi element in this world, which is the modern day as we all know it and loved it, with all this element that you just think that can't possibly be going on. You would hope. But it was the 80s. And we've got here as well, Pete saying, It's a fun show, this, to add to the Christmas list with Box of Delights going along your lines here, Jodie. Lion, The Witch and the Wardrobe, etc. It's ideal Christmas fare. I'm actually watching the Box of Delights now, everybody, because again, it's another of my Christmas staples. K9 and Company, Box of Delights, and the normal movies, all the Christmas specials, Die Hard, Muppet Christmas Carol, all those sort of things. And Darren's agreeing with you, Pete. Indeed, it's the sort of TV that just doesn't get made anymore. And it's a shame. We've lost something when you watch something like K9 and Company. I reckon if they put this on now, everybody, I'm not talking about the iPlayer, if they screen this now on, say, I don't know, Boxing Day afternoon or one of those nights, even December the 28th, I reckon people would watch this and go, ooh, hang on a minute. I like
Unfortunately, they'd have to put a disclaimer before the episode saying this was made at a different time, but attitudes were different. I bet they'd have to do that.
Smoking appears.
And I don't know, the way they described Peter, the son as well, wouldn't be allowed this time.
No, not at all.
Oh, and Sarah, because at one point she's looking at the books and she's wearing a kimono, which is very much cultural appropriation.
It's problematic.
It's problematic.
It would be problematic there, which is a shame because Liz Sladen looks stunning in that. I mean, this is Sarah when she knows what she's wearing. She again, her character here is it's very country-ish, isn't it? So she's fitting into what she thinks the country's
because she got dressed in the dark in the Five Doctors, didn't she? So.
It's the big woolly jumper I like with that. What is it, Angora or wherever it was? Everybody was wearing those, especially my mum was always knitting those sort of jumpers with all these sort of hair things all over it. It looks like a cat. You know, I remember those big. Sarah's got that in one of the episodes where she goes to write one of the scenes. They were everywhere. I remember those. Teachers wore them at school.
Well, I was talking to John Yolden about doing this tonight, and he said he loves Liz in her jogging gear, and only she could pull it off. And she did in the title sequence,
Well, thank goodness it stayed in the title sequence. I can tell you it would have disappeared in the title sequence. All right, then. So, everybody, we are now going to do this. Scores on the TARDIS doors for this for K9 and Company. Okay, we'll start with Michael. What are you going to give it out of 10?
I think 7.
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Pete's given us a warning before we go to Jodie. Dogs were made of metal back then. Parental guidance is required. We were ahead of the times, weren't we?
Yeah.
We absolutely were. Jodie, what are you going to give this out of 10?
I'm going to give it a 9, but the reason I don't give it a 10 is because they didn't continue it. I was gutted when they didn't continue it. I was so excited and thought there was a whole series coming, and then it didn't happen. And it still makes me sad watching it today that never happened.
I bet the BBC actually regret that now, or certain aspects of it, because they would have made a lot of money out of it, because the way they've marketed Doctor Who and everything like that. B, because the success of the Sarah Jane Adventures when they eventually did get around to that. And C, because it would have pulled in the audiences. You know, it was very short-sighted of them, wasn't it? The controller to actually say no.
And could you imagine we might have even got Peter Davison crossovers?
Yeah.
Ahead of their time. John would have made sure of that.
You know, you're right.
Made sure.
You're absolutely right on that. He would have done.
That
opportunity would not have passed him by. He was a shrewd cookie at that point.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Can you imagine something like Black Orchid with Sarah and K9 in it?
Yeah.
So what we had with
have
David...
to time travel for that one, JT, though.
Well, no, I mean something like it. The whole premise of the child surviving in.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I mean, you would have had
Black Orchid, could you? Because that would be problematic. It'd have to be something like pink and sky blue.
No, Ian. It would have been called Orchid of Colour.
It'd be the neutral orchid. It would have been called, yes.
The beige orchid.
Trans orchid.
No, which was a rose. Oh no, we can't use that word anymore. Sorry.
I was just going to say you would have had the relationship we had with David Tennant and Sarah Jane later on. We would have had potentially with Peter Davison. That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
it would have been. And Jodie's right. It's just such a shame that they pulled the plug. Oh God, we still don't know the full story about that.
BBC, it calls itself public service broadcasting, but they gutted a generation of children not producing that.
Yeah.
And the real reason it didn't get a bad reception. I get
No,
it.
it got,
It's pulling
it
the
got
figures.
8.4 million. 8.4 million votes on the first showing.
So it just was. I don't know. I felt like the BBC were totally against everything at that stage. Between that, the ending of Blake 7, cancelling tripods after series 2. I'm sorry, the BBC just seemed to keep doing this to some of my favourite programmes.
Yeah.
And I just, sometimes you didn't feel represented at that age because you felt, God, they keep canning the stuff I love.
Well, they just didn't like. They just didn't like or understand sci-fi, even though they had a huge hit with Doctor Who. You know, I mean, yeah. I think from the fans, we can all say it was a bad mistake to not to go to series. I think it would have been a fantastic series. I think it would have run for at least 5 years with Liz there. You know, and
you just have to look at Sarah Jane Adventures to see that worked.
Yes,
You know, very well. You know,
it was a safe pair of hands. You know, it wasn't like they were taking a risk. They weren't taking a risk with K9, and they weren't taking a risk with Liz. So why wouldn't they?
Could there be a great episode of K9 and Company where they go to a wet location and K9 stays in the house and she does it all on her own? Like
Actually, the more I think about it, the more I think I was too harsh with my score. Can I change mine, JT?
Yes, go ahead.
Because I was going to say 7 for the story, but because it's Liz and K9, 9. You know,
so we've got 2 9s. We've got 2 9. What about you, Third Doctor Ian? What were you going to give this out of 10?
I was going to give it about an 8.5, if that's all right. 8.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's great fun. Yeah, 8.5. Not quite a 10, but absolutely deserved going to a series. And I am sure it would have just got better and better and better.
Oh yeah, as I say, it's a strong pilot. It's incredibly strong.
It's one of the strongest pilots you can see to this very day.
Yeah,
because
like you didn't feel represented because they just didn't make or carry on things that were really, really good that you enjoyed, and they didn't. But the thing is, I mean, that's the BBC through and through, isn't it? I mean, I don't feel that the BBC represents me now, you know. But
they certainly don't.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to see where a series would have gone. Would it have gone down the Avengers route, or would it have gone down the Champions or the Persuaders route? Would it have gone down I don't think it would have been comedy. John wouldn't have liked that. But how would it have been? How would they have got out of that formula of Sarah and K9?
And different locations.
A unit, maybe. Would have got Nick Courtney in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. John would not have allowed a trick to be missed. He would have gone through the whole thing, saying, "Right, who can I bring into this?"
Mike Yates.
I've got Liz Shaw in it. You know, you never know.
Could have.
Well, everybody was there at that point as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
You know, and we had at that point we had Pat, John, Tom, and Peter.
To be fair, they could have done exactly what they did with Sarah Jane Adventures, is what they did in the end, with having Nick come back, the Doctor in it, the odd occasional old monster that's on Tarrans, maybe bring back the spiders. Who knows? Anything could come into it. You know?
Oh, he would have loved. Yeah. I actually see where that would have gone, and it wouldn't have just been like K9 and Company every week. I actually do think those elements would have come in, because he would not have resisted that. Oh, we'll pit Sarah and K9 against the Cybermen, you know. And it was so easy for them to do in those days as well, because everything was there. It was, you know, the main show was going on. It hadn't to come out of production. We were robbed, basically, weren't we? We were robbed.
I do think Tom Baker would have done an episode because it was Liz.
I reckon he would have.
He would have. I think Tom would have done anything for Liz, wouldn't he?
Sladen, he would have absolutely done it. I think he clearly adored her, just like we did. And
yeah.
I mean, that clip on that documentary, I have trouble watching.
Oh, it's heartbreaking, isn't it? Yeah.
When it breaks down. Pete's saying here, yes, Nick Courtney would have been in it. It would have been fantastic. Maybe Yates and Bet. And as I say, because everybody was around at that point as well, anything could have happened to spice up this and get people coming in. It would, I'm going to stick to it. We're robbed. Paul, what would you give this scores on the TARDIS stores?
I would probably say about 8.5 as well. I really like it. I agree with what Jodie said. When we were kids, we got proper dramas. It didn't talk down to kids. It had a nice scary feel to it. I was about 14 at the time, going on 15, so it wasn't.
He was so old.
Scary. I know exactly. And it's kind of wasn't that scary for me. But a great atmosphere. I'd imagine if you were a younger fan, you would have found some of it scary, particularly the The bits at night were particularly scary with the chanting and the devil worshipping. Must have been really scary for the kids. I get 8.5. Great episode. Shame I never got a series. I agree with what everyone said.
Definitely. We've got in the chat here, Sam is giving it a 9, which is fabulous. And Pete is saying a good solid 9 because it's absolutely great fun. Totally. From myself, I'm giving it a 10 because I love this story. I might only watch it once a year at Christmas, but I loved it then. And I love it now for the same reasons because it's just brilliant. And the older I get and the more I look at where we are today in real life, I look at K9 and Company, and it just has that wholesome thing where I think, right, everything I knew is still down there. It's there on celluloid, and I just love it. And the performance with Liz, it's great to have John Leeson back as K9. We never mentioned John, but there he is back doing the voice of K9. That whole setup. And yeah, I just love it. So it's a 10 from me. Darren is also giving it 9. Good, solid storytelling and a favorite festive memory. Absolutely. You can't say any more than that, can you? Oh, God. So I think that's a big, huge thumbs up for us. Absolutely marvelous.
That was excellent, JT.
It certainly was. So listen, I hope you've enjoyed the first of our Christmas episodes for 2023 with our look at K9 and Company. God knows what we'll look at next year. I have no idea. But the first
We'll do this again.
Yeah, we can look at this again. Yeah. But the first Doctor Who spin-off, the first Christmas special, it's so important. If you haven't seen K9 and Company, go and look it up because it's absolutely fabulous. It's now available on the season 18 box set and, of course, now also on the iPlayer. So there's no excuses, everybody, to watch the dog with his beloved mistress, Sarah Jane Smith. I want to say thank you to all the Whotastic panel that have joined me for this lovely review here. So thank you, Whotastic panel.
Thanks, JT.
Thank you.
Back at school.
We're going to be back very shortly with more Christmas gorgeousness here on the channel. So please don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you get notifications of when we're going live again. We do have our Christmas special on the way. It's this. It is the Doctor in the house. Big question.
Pause, wasn't it?
Yeah, pause for dramatic effect. That was. Yes, I hope it worked. But yeah, join us for that. Don't forget, we will be back soon with that one. So until then, Merry Christmas right now. We will see you again very shortly. Thanks to the Whotastic panel. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.